He's the country director of Oxford Policy Management in Ethiopia. Michael, please come up. Big round of applause, please, for Michael. He's been a constant supporter of this conference. We greatly appreciate his anchoring of this very important panel for the past, I don't know, 6, 7 editions of this conference. Thanks, Michael. Joining Michael will be Samba Conte Klo Bilali, who is the chairman of regulation and communication at ACE Submarine Cable. Samba, will you please come up on stage? We also have with us Samuel Chiwanda, CEO and founder of Click Mobile. Samuel, please come up and join this panel. And last but not least is Bettelhelm Girme, Chief Human Resource Officer at iCog Labs. Girme, will you also please come up on stage? So, the topic of this session is digital governance and policy harmonization. We have a very wide range of speakers with different areas of expertise from government, from the private sector, from the HR area, doing work on ICT policies, AI policies, ethical AI, and so on. So the theme of AI will continue to resonate in multiple sessions of our conference. So we have about 45 minutes from this for this panel, from 3:30 to 4:15. I'm going to leave you all in the able hands of Michael to have Samba, Samuel, and Bethlem share with you all their insights on what it takes to harmonize digital policies and digital governance across Africa. A big round of applause, please, for our panel over here. Michael, over to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Manu. I hope everyone had uh, an energizing coffee break. Uh, Now we're going to be able to speak a bit on bold issues that's affecting every one of us. Without further ado, maybe I would start out by posing a question to the audience. Um, would you agree in the next 1 decade or 10 years that policy harmonization can be achieved in the continent? Maybe with a show of hands.
How many of you
To
say
con-
yes, it can be done in the next 10 years?
I
So
can
we
see
need to
some,
convince all the others that it
yes.
can be done.
So we can see some optimism from the beginning. Now, at OPM, at Oxford Policy Management, we've seen the importance of having the right data and evidence when generating the necessary policy and policy harmonization. There is a significant opportunity with regards to the infrastructure gap within the continent and the available of innovative technologies such as mobile money and others. Now, taking into account these broad opportunities and the potential challenge, but fragmented policies can risk leveraging millions behind and leaving behind. Let's meet 4 different perspectives that have different insights to the challenge ahead. Samuel works to connect millions in the African continent, mastering policy tangles, and I imagine aligning the messaging rules from Lagos to Lusaka would require a lot of innovation. Samba next to me worked with ACE, trying to provide a submarine fiber systems from the continent all the way to Europe. And we have Bethlehem in the panel trying to share some innovative technological achievements using AI to make AI be much more Africa valued. Now, maybe let's start with the quick questions. Now, maybe to you, Samuel, in your Pan-African operation and taking into account the varying change and risk in the space, the Africa Union Digital Transformation Strategy worked to harmonize policies across the region. From your practical experience, is it a dream or a reality? And what are the challenges that's affecting you to scale messaging services?
When I was a little younger, we used to study about the Southern Africa Development Community. And when they shared what each country contributes towards another nation, it made a lot of sense how we live in unity as one for a common goal. But as I grew older, I began to realize that every country is on its own. If you look at Malawi right now, we probably are struggling with Forex, whereas a neighboring country could have no Forex issues. And then I begin to ask myself a question to say, if we can't help each other in the basics, how are we going to help each other in the policy making? Because I also begin to realize that money plays an important role in these policies, and financial muscles differ from country to country, making the countries with a bigger financial muscle more technologically advanced and more influential to the countries that are behind on a financial perspective. So I think it's really, really complex. I'll give you a practical example. We never had issues with any regulator until somebody decided to send messages on our gateway in Zambia insulting the president and the ministers. That is when the regulator called us to the table. It became an issue because it affected some people of power. But had a similar message gone to an ordinary citizen, there wouldn't be need for consent. So now a question comes to say, are these policies for the big shots or they're for the ordinary citizens? And are we deploying them for a common goal or to protect certain people within the ecosystem?
It's a very interesting question that you posed. I would have a follow-up for you. Now, you've mentioned there are opportunities as well as some challenges. What are one challenge that happens that helps you either to pivot or maybe look into different other avenues? And if there are any lesson learned.
I think from a person who is into messaging, the biggest challenge is competition. I'll give you an example. I need permission from the regulator to be able to integrate or connect to the mobile operators. WhatsApp is developed in America. I've never seen them ask for a license, but they can push messages globally. What happens to me that needs to go through all these red tapes to get approval to send a simple SMS? I remember a couple of years back, I wanted to run a VoIP integration to push international traffic. You needed a license from the regulator to push VoIP. You'd be arrested to push VoIP without a license. We use VoIP daily on our WhatsApp. Does WhatsApp have license in Ethiopia to push VoIP? I don't think so. Think about it. Let's say WhatsApp was developed in Ethiopia or Malawi. Do you think it would have the same global presence that it has today? I don't know if that answers your question.
Now, I would understand there are different challenges that you've raised. Some of them could be grouped from having the necessary licensing regime, data privacy issues, the cybersecurity, and others. Now, what would be one that you would think within the African context for you to operate across seamlessly across the various countries? Which one would you be the one to advocate?
Obviously, Malawi, because I'm from Malawi. Uh, I wouldn't think twice of that. And I must commend the regulators in Malawi. They've done a good job in allowing us to innovate and be able to come up with different ideas in the ecosystem. And I'm just looking forward to a day when the African developer, both in university, in the schools, can be able to innovate from a messaging perspective or and get the same recipient person from an international community would get when they do innovate in the same space.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to switch back to Samba. You have uh, a continent-wide submarine-based fiber system that allows to connect some part of the continent to Europe. I'm assuming some of the challenge that's been reflected by Samuel resonates to you as well. Now, looking into your operations, what is something that keeps you awake at night? The one thing that worries you every day?
Thank you very much for your question. Thank you also for having me on stage. Um, so to my fellow panelists, and good afternoon, everyone. Yes, to be honest, when I look at it very carefully, um, something happened last year. I'm sure you noticed. Um, we experienced breaks on the subsea cables in West Africa. And since that very day, what we've seen so far is that many regulators, companies, even at ITU level, people are trying to come together in order to shape new policies because they think that if they do it the right way, they can actually prevent and help us have more resilience and redundancy on the subsea systems. We agree we need the right regulation, but it's never a good idea to react or to overreact without the right data, without the right figures. So this is mainly, this is one of my fears. And I would like to have more time and energy so that we can reflect on it and think about the future, but with the right data and the right forecast and the right figures, not only reacting or overreacting, because by doing so, we could make the wrong choices.
I think you've raised an important issue, the role of having the right evidence to formulate policy as a whole. Now, within the space that you operate in, it is true sometimes not having a policy that reflects based on actual data and its an implication have got uh, a devastating impact. What are the message that you want to set across to policymakers, especially looking into the submarine fiber operation, so that you could be able to provide a strong backbone which is affordable, and that could be able to help the transformation of agendas of various African countries? What would be the message for you?
Okay, the first message I would like to give is that we all know that launching or landing a subsea system um, that is workable, doable, and interesting cannot be done only by one or two operators. So we need to bring many parties together in order to achieve that goal. So policy can actually help a lot on that matter because when you need to land a cable, you have many permits, authorizations, and the regimes will depend from one country to another. You can be in your own country, you will need a license that will take time. Uh, Me, in another country, I will just need a permit. It will take maybe a few months. Another one will be just waived all the authorizations in order to operate. So when we decide, for instance, that we need to launch a cable and the time frame is, let's say, 2 years, okay, it can take you 1 year to have all the licenses you need. It can only take me 1 or 2 months, or it can be a matter of weeks for another one. So we need to harmonize the policies and also always keep in mind that uh, we need money because this investment is very expensive. So people who deal with money, usually they don't have enough time. And we also need to keep in mind that um, the objective is to give affordable internet to the end customer. And usually when we sit with regulators, we used to tell them, we have customers, you don't have. Okay. So we need to keep that in mind because otherwise Uh, we, if you don't know actually what is a goal, what is the ultimate goal, we can make wrong choices in coming up new policies.
It's an interesting point that you've raised. There is a requirement to balance private sector profit, citizens' interest, and overall goal for government revenue generation. Now, within this mix, I'm assuming there is always a trade-off that happens. From your perspective, what are maybe some considerations that needs to be made?
As I said before, we need to keep in mind that the ultimate goal, the objective that we all have is to make sure that we can have affordable internet for the end customer. And we can also have enough interest in that activity so that people from the ecosystem can actually, uh, so that it will raise and increase the willingness to invest from all the ecosystem members. Uh, we also need to keep in mind that populism usually is not actually a good approach. I give you an example with what happened when we had those cable cuts a few months ago. Many people came together and said, "Oh, we need to fix this, and we need resilience, we need redundancy." I don't know what will be um, the final takeouts of these discussions, but some people could just come up and say, "Okay, so from now on, we will insist to say that those who have just only one or two submarine cables must bring another one." But that investment can be up to 50 million US dollars, for instance. Who would pay actually for that? As as an operator, if I decide to bring a new cable, that money, I will reflect it on the final prices that I give to the end customer. And in some countries, we don't have the authorization to increase the price for internet access. So what, what would be the trade-off?
Interesting questions. Now, this two suggestions leads the way having the infrastructure by itself um, and not having the right ecosystem that supports us to drive is going to be a challenge. Now, moving to Bethlehem, um, AI from previous conversations and throughout the last few years, it's been creating great opportunities and challenges as well. Your organization looks into different use cases utilizing AI as a tool. Now, from your experience, what are the challenges policymakers have to bear in mind looking into AI and its ethical concern and making it equitable? Any thoughts?
So I'm gonna make it specific. Um, Governments in Africa, including Ethiopia, face several challenges in enabling AI ethics. The first one is that uh, it's been mentioned before. Many African countries lack comprehensive policies and regulations to enable AI ethics. In this like rapid technology, uh, not having policies and regulations on AI uh, would make us like I've been hearing the conversation before. They were saying that AI may replace people, right? So this AI ethics thing uh, will work. The policy and regulation will work on not people have to use AI. They are not going to be replaced with AI. AI is a tool which will help human to achieve more things, not to replace them. So on this, I mentioned that we lack comprehensive policies and regulations. including Ethiopia. I think it's been launched at the digital governance policies were launched on 2023. I don't know if it's like finalized by now. So yeah, the first one is lack of policies and regulations. And the second one is that as a human resource um, manager at iCog, I have seen many things. We the shortage of AI expertise, not just AI expertise. Uh, does our population really know how to use AI tools effectively? Even they do even know the meaning of AI. That's the question for all of us. Maybe if there are embassies here, there are many organizations here. Do your employees use AI tools effectively? That's a question for all of us. So no, we lack the knowledge of AI tools. So the main thing currently, iCog Labs is working on building AI talents. We are trying to teach top AI talents. Uh, we are currently our employees are very young, including me. You can see me. So we do teach talents from universities, and we give them a training program, and we train them. Uh, yeah, we train them directly by having experience on AI projects. The curriculum, even the university's curriculum, learning curriculum, have some problems. Uh, they don't really focus. I think there is only one uh, course which is given for university students for about AI and else. Uh, it have to be included. AI ethics have to be included in the curriculum. Maybe governments have to focus on this because uh, our future is going to be shaped by AI. So we have to know how to use AI. Otherwise, the fear every people is fearing that AI is going to replace them, and it's going to happen. But before that, we have to know about AI and what is AI ethics. We have to create awareness. So I haven't seen any company in Africa working on AI ethics and creating awareness on AI ethics. But uh, as iCog Labs, there is an AI ethics team, and we work on it. But we need broader enforcement of uh, data protection laws and else. Like so, the government, the private sector, and the university have to collaborate and work together. The third one is maybe ensuring the data privacy. Uh, like, are governments balancing innovation with protecting their citizens' privacy? That's a question for all of us. I don't think so personally. Uh, like the first thing have to be innovation is a good thing. We have to know about AI. We have to, uh, yeah, but uh, our privacy have to be protected. So we have to focus on this. I mean, we can mention uh, yeah, the Indian's digital DPA, if you heard of this. It's more, it protects the citizens' privacy uh, information. So that's more ethical way. And yeah, maybe in the current situation of Africa, these are the main challenges, which are uh, challenges to enable AI ethics. I think so.
Thank you very much. You've raised important questions. The importance of having the right ethical framework. Some research highlights that AI work in the continent have lacked a basic governance structure, a significant large amount of them. So there is definitely a potential room for significant growth while being understanding to the potential challenge. You've also noted that looking into AI ethics is it doesn't fall into only government's hand. I think there's a great experience that we've learned from Mauritius this morning, what they've done in terms of understanding and limiting some of the risk factor and risk metrics that they've deployed. But academia, private sector, and government have to work together to address the challenge. Are there any specific maybe initiatives that you're involved in where you're working on AI ethics with academia or government or the private sector? Are there any example that you can share with us?
Maybe we've been like collaborating with there are many universities which reach us for their students internship and for hands-on experience on AI. So uh, we've been we've been telling them to, you know, as a suggestion, we've been suggesting them to include AI ethics as a yeah as a one course in universities. And also we did have an event in 2024 at Curriculum University on the navigating the AGI future, and we tried to create an awareness about AI ethics. Plus, we were trying to build a community by that event.
Thank you very much. Now back to you, Samuel. I'm just curious, is regulatory sandbox our magic wand? There's been said that regulation always lags behind technology, and the innovation and the rate of change within the technology have been significantly rapidly changing. And regulation always and regulatory frameworks have to adapt and being agile. So, do you think sandbox is the African secret weapon when it comes into having the right policies?
A few years back, I would be complaining about regulation moving too slowly. But as I grow older, I think some things need to take time. So they're scrutinized. If we look at AI as a topic of discussion, we're actually creating things that will move faster than our processing and our analysis. How are we going to be able to deal with a factory that has 20 automated people doing something and there's an error that is supposed to be fixed by a human being that needs to process the items? I'm at a place where I feel like if humanity is creating a fast world that they cannot be able to cope with. I don't know if I'm making sense. And I'm for and I'm against AI. And I feel like if I was in leadership, I'd even slow down policy even further so that I sit down and understand that what are we exactly doing? Remember, there were times we'd ask our parents, we want to do something, and they'll say, let me think about it. Because they want to process. But our generation is moving too fast, such that by the time we have a problem, we might realize we had not taken time to think about the problem that we're dealing with, and we've created things we cannot control.
So a wait and step-by-step approach, testing and looking into the outcome. So as it's been suggested, sandboxing might be the secret weapon. Now, Samba, for you, would you think maybe 5G forced harmonization requiring a higher bandwidth requirements across from your perspective, or what would be something that would help to galvanize the policy, the fragmented policy across the continent?
I think it will be very difficult to harmonize policies across the continent for many reasons. Um, we can look at the Africa continent as a whole, but when we start traveling the in Africa, north, south, west, and east, we just realize that, you know, countries are so different, even if we share basically the same values and we have the same culture. But honestly, when we look at it carefully, from an economic perspective, yes, it can be very different from one country to another. And even sometimes in the same country, oh, honestly, you can go from Manhattan to a village in the same town, just in 10 minutes or so. But when it comes to 5G, AI, I think one of the key factors maybe the regulator should look at is the need we have um, to develop and build our own data centers because this is something definitely we will need. Not only because it is fancy and when it comes to sovereignty, this is something nice to have, but the quantity of data that we will be dealing with in some years, in few years, will be so huge that we need to run our own data centers. Unfortunately, we cannot stress the need of data centers without, you know, emphasizing the fact that we will need more energy to run those data centers. So, as you may see, we have many we need to look at. But let's see what we can bring in terms of efficiency, especially for the energy. Uh, I don't know. Everything is good to have. If we can use wind, it's okay. If we can have solar farms, it is okay. Uh, let's be innovative about it. But we need uh, to have the right forecast because this is something we need and we must have. So let's see what is the best way to make it happen.
Thank you very much. Maybe last question for Bethlehem. What would be the ethical AI red flag? Something that people should be watching out for. The question is, what would be an ethical AI red flag that you would advise others to look for, looking into from AI from an ethical perspective? What would be the red flag?
Okay. So, an ethical AI concept, like, as I mentioned before, uh, like we don't have any experience or uh, experience or um more we lack knowledge on AI ethics. Uh, but the red flag would be uh maybe not knowing what AI is and uh not using it responsibly would be like the red flag for uh, AI ethics.
Thank you very much. I think we've seen today that governance isn't about creating the walls, but not necessarily, but building the bridge. Can policy can also be a sprint, not a crawl. Samuel provided harmonizing starts with dialogue, but it's not easy. Uh, uh, Samba highlights the connectivity needs. There's a lot of chaos, but coherence would have to rule. And Bethlehem reminded us that AI without ethics, we're not going to help on our digital divide. Now, after this long conversation, I would ask and open the room for any burning questions that you might have for this distinguished panel.
Questions from the audience? Anyone have? Yeah, we have a hand up here.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Fridendi. I am from the African Union. I have two questions. The first is to Mr. Samuel. You did mention that sometimes we need, or sometimes it takes issues to hit top or key players or big shots before it's taken seriously. I just wanted you to shed some light a bit more on how, government from a continental perspective, how government can proactively, prioritize and address some of these policies that are related to emerging technologies rather than just waiting for it to hit a big shot before it becomes something of urgency or priority? That's my first question. And the second question can go to anyone on the panel. It's more about how, just to share a bit more light on how policymakers, especially from continental perspectives. Now I'm not narrowing down to any country. And industry leaders can collaborate and come together to develop and harmonize digital governance frameworks that can foster innovation and investment while ensuring consumer protection, data privacy, and equitable access to digital resources across diverse economies.
Two great
Thank
questions.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think I'll take the second one and then maybe move on to my colleagues for the rest. Coming from a policy background, I think it all starts with having the right data and evidence and insight. Um, for us at OPM, we always advocate and be able to generate the necessary insights. So whether it's a continental level, addressing the different local, regional, country-specific challenge, develop the necessary evidence that would help to inform to develop the options. Once you have the insights, then based on the insights, what usually happen is there will going to be developed policy options. Now, the options would have its own pros and cons. Not one fit all solutions are there. There is tradings that has to be done. Um, but there is a process that would be able to look into each options based on its merit and decide which one would be able to put forward. Once we have the right evidence, policy options, and decision being made with the regional governing body in the case of continental strategies, then there will be negotiation that will be done to make sure there is the trade-off that reflects the best possible policy to be implemented. Now, looking into implementation, then there's a requirement for funding and making sure there's the system structure in place. Um, but we don't stop there. We have to develop the human capital necessary to execute this. Leave alone at a continental level, at a country level, it requires an understanding of the policy at a subnational level. So that would be compounded, understanding the different nuances within the region. But there is a process to do that. Once you be able to have the right human resource capital development program, you would be able to monitor and evaluate and learn from your policies. And this is an iterative process that you have to be able to move forward, especially when it involves technology. So this is just a general approach for any policy from this perspective. But Samuel?
Okay, thank you for the question. I want to live long, so when questions touch political spaces, I get stressed. But the truth must prevail at the end of the day, right? If I developed a tool that made a presidential candidate to win faster or for his campaign to move at a faster speed, and then I developed another tool that improves healthcare in the rural areas, which one do you think would hit the streets faster? The campaign one. Until we have a mindset change and we realize that the people are more important than the positions, than the accolades, it's going to be very difficult for us to achieve some of these goals. Please don't get me arrested. I'm only a young man trying to be honest. But I think the challenge is interests are the ones that kind of slow down these processes. Decision makers or policy makers, if their interest is not in the policy, I can assure you, you will beg for years and the policy will never get to pass. But if the policy has got interest of people that sit on the board, that are, and interest could be finances, interest could be benefits after the policy has passed, then you find those policies moving at the speed of light to be implemented. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Thank you very much. My name is Teshoma. I work in Wingo Africa Data Center. Thank you for very good presentation for the panelists. My question may be a little bit away from the framework of the panel. Question comes to my colleague from Submarine Cable. So I don't know in what intervention or policy or something issues you have for countries who are not directly in contact with your seashore, like a country, landlocked country, my country, Ethiopia, Rwanda, and every countries in Africa. So if they want to be connected with you, they have to pass over the other countries. If I take to Ethiopia, we have to pass to Djibouti, we have to pass to Kenya or Sudan in the neighboring countries. So we have a good relation with these countries, and we have still have connected with them through them. But this is a kind of what can I say? In my view, a kind of sovereignty. Like if a country says you cannot pass through mine, and you cannot have a terrestrial broadband line, so you have to use satellite or something, which is something that has its own side effect. So is there any way from the submarine cable providers so as these countries can be benefited in a way, may not be in a policy, or do you have any advocating mechanism if something happens? So this is a kind of access to submarine cables. So naturally, these countries, there are no advantages. I'm not saying they have their own advantage to be landlocked sometimes, but from this perspective of connectivity, it's very, very, very like they're paying a lot of capacity and cost, and of course the local connectivity is totally dependent on that. So, is there any way somehow, either with any or association or anything, so as you have to address some landlocked countries, with the Central Africa and something like that? Sorry.
Yeah, can we have a quick question, a quick answer to that? Because we got one more question after this. So, Samba, if you got a quick answer, that'll be good.
Okay, I'll try. Honestly, this is a statement that breaks my heart because this is something we see very often, and we haven't found yet a final solution to this. But I think the best way to make it happen is to make sure that when you have your business plan and you want to land a subsea system, take into consideration, all the terrestrial links and rights of ways that you have, you will have to pay. But if it's only matter of finance, I mean, if you just have to pay and then you waive the right to go through, it's okay. But my concern and what breaks my heart is that you can have an issue with a very specific country, and he knows that you must go through the country in order to have access to the subsidy system, and he will make it difficult for you to go there. So it means that many geopolitics will kick in. Maybe this is something we can a discussion we can have later on
Yeah,
in
you
the
can take it
process.
offline. Yeah, last question. Go ahead.
Anyone can take this. Maybe Mike might be the right person. Regulation versus innovation, right? It is a chicken or egg question. And some of it is ideology, right? If you go libertarian ideology, they would like innovation to go fast and then regulation to adapt. If you have regulation before the innovation, the implication is you're stifling innovation because you would have a box, you would limit innovations. Therefore, it's yes, we have to have a speedy regulatory crafting process, but innovation should drive. What is your view?
Yeah, a quick answer. And we also have, I think, two people at the back have their hands up. What we'll do is we'll take the questions, but the answers will be given afterwards. So we just want to hear the questions. Yeah. Then we can have a quick answer. Yeah, go on.
Thank you very much, now. There is no definitely a quick answer for that, but there is the requirement for a lengthy dialogue. As it's been said, even the rate of change within the technology that we understand is very rapid. So being mindful of the change and having the framework for continued engagement would be the right one. I wouldn't be able to fall in either part of the spectrum. Thank you.
Okay, let's just hear the question at the back. Yeah. Someone had their hand up at the back. Yeah, please.
My name is Saganat, and introduce myself again. Or?
Can you hold the mic a bit closer to your mouth? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm Saganat, and I came from a company called Dragon Computer Systems, which is an IT company. And transformation, I have some. When you suggest for companies to use IT in AIs, how is that? How does that secure our data? And also, are there any websites that we can use as we want? And are their websites secure? They have SSL certificates or any other? Are there any rules? Also, are there any rules or regulations that we can have when we use those?
Okay, good. One question about how to train, and the second one, resources for guarding against privacy. Any other questions? Somebody else had a hand up there. Yeah, last question. Just pass the mic on to her.
Thank you. My name is Bethlehem. I'm from Safaricom Ethiopia. My question is around policy harmonization. I think as a continent, as we are striving to create a one economically integrated continent through the initiatives such as the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, we can't dismiss the importance of policy harmonization. For the sake of predictability, we need to create a harmonized policy throughout the continent. But at the same time, I think this was something that was reflected in the panel as well. There is importance in giving flexibility to member states to determine on their own based on national policy priorities. So we also need to give them a sort of flexibility. For instance, in countries like Ethiopia, if you see, this is a peculiar market that we are operating at because in our country, the ICT sector itself was liberalized 3 years ago. So you can see the peculiar issues that might emerge with a newly liberalized market. So while we have a harmonization objective that we take from policy documents, such as the African Union Digital Transformation Strategy document, which sets standards, it actually sets recommendations. It doesn't set rules, recommendations to member states to harmonize their laws. But at the same time, there is importance to give flexibilities to address peculiar issues, such as what we have in our country. So what's the right way of creating this balance between harmony? What are the things that we should leave for harmonization and the things that we should leave for self-regulation?
Wow. Two excellent questions from our speakers. Any quick responses? We can extend by a couple of minutes for this. So, Mike or anyone else want
Yeah,
to jump in? Yeah.
sure. Maybe a quick reflection on the last one. I think the Africa Free Trade Continental Free Trade Agreement is a very good step in the right direction that helps to harmonize a lot of efforts, and there will be a lesson learned. So there is individuals' continental priorities as well as individual states' own mandate. So that is something that will be learned, reflected, and I'm sure in a mature environment in the EUs and others, there is always a trade-off that has to happen where individual sovereignty versus collective good would be balanced, and that's the assumption.
Any quick comments from the other panelists for any of these issues, or we can skip? Others, yeah, go on.
I truly second this.
Great. So, Michael, you want to sum up, or
Uh,
yeah, maybe you can just sum up
Yes,
in a minute.
with regards to, I think the question that was raised on resources and availability of tools, I think I would suggest a one-on-one. And there are definitely a lot of resources available more than ever before, and some guidelines and guardrails to look into. Happy to have a chat, a one-on-one. Thank you.
Michael, Samba, Samuel, and Bethlehem, thanks for a fantastic panel discussion. A big round of applause, please, for a very engaging discussion after lunch. Usually, people think the post-lunch session is a bit boring or governance is a boring topic, but as you can see, it's full of some of the most exciting issues. Please come towards the front for a group photograph. And once again, everyone, please thank Michael, Samba, Samuel, and Bethem for a superb discussion on organizational policy and national policy for governance and ICTs. Thank you all so much, and please join the audience. And let's move on now to our next panel. Our next panel also is on a very important topic, especially for our local audience here, which is Connected Ethiopia. Let me invite our four speakers to come up on stage. First, we'll begin with the moderator.